Let's take a trip to a place called Haridaspur. It's a village in Madhya Pradesh that really looks like any other. But trust me, beneath that quiet, ordinary surface, a terrifying secret was taking root. Something that felt almost supernatural.
You see, behind the calm facade, a kind of unspoken fear was gripping every single family, especially if they had young daughters. A deep dread would just settle over the whole village as soon as the sun went down, because everyone knew that the night could bring something absolutely unthinkable.
And this is why. 16, that's the number of young, unmarried women who, over just a few months, had all mysteriously become pregnant. I mean, this wasn't some weird coincidence. This was like a silent epidemic, and it was tearing the entire community apart from the inside out. So let's start peeling back the layers of this baffling mystery. Because honestly, the deeper you dig into the details, the more impossible the whole thing starts to sound.
This was the one question that haunted every single person in that village. It didn't even feel like a crime. It felt like a curse. I mean, the circumstances just defied all logic, and the villagers were running out of explanations. And they were definitely running out of hope.
And this is where it gets truly unbelievable. Just try to imagine the sheer terror. You lock every single door, you bolt them from the inside, you latch every window shut, you even have the entire family, parents, kids, everyone, sleeping in the very same room for safety. And still, it keeps happening. No signs of forced entry, no broken glass, not a single trace of a break-in. It was as if a ghost was just passing right through the walls.
To really understand the devastation this caused, we need to zoom in on one family. Their story, their plea for help, became the spark that ignited the whole search for the truth.
Meet Shyam Singh. He's just a simple farmer, and his world revolves around his 16-year-old daughter, Gudia. One day, out of nowhere, she collapses with this excruciating stomach pain. He's totally panicked, rushes her to the city hospital thinking it's some awful illness. But the truth was so much worse than anything he could have ever imagined. Can you imagine? Those are the words the doctor says to him. It just completely shatters his world. Pregnant? How? It was impossible. The man was just stunned into total disbelief. His daughter never even left the house by herself. It made absolutely no sense.
When they got back to the village, the cruel whispers started spreading like wildfire. You have to understand, in a small, conservative community like that, an unmarried pregnant daughter meant total ruin for the family. And even though Gudia was tearfully denying it, saying she had no idea how it happened, the family was shamed, they were isolated, totally broken, with nowhere else to turn, Shyam Singh made one last, desperate choice, to go to the city and find help. And this is who he sought out. Superintendent of Police, Renuka Chowdhury. Now, she wasn't just any cop. She had a reputation that was absolutely formidable. Known for being incredibly sharp, totally uncompromising, she was the kind of officer whose name alone was enough to make hardened criminals tremble.
So when this bizarre case officially lands on SP Renuka's desk, the standard police approach hits a brick wall almost immediately. She knew, right away, that to solve something this impossible, she was going to have to throw out the rulebook. Okay, so her first move is to send in the local SHO, an officer named Vikram Singh. His team goes through the village with a fine-tooth comb. They inspect every home, they interview everybody, and the result? Absolutely nothing. Zero. Every door was locked, every story was the same, the police had no clues, while the villagers were stuck living in this state of constant terror.
After reading that report, Renuka realized this wasn't some standard crime. Something was deeply, deeply wrong in Haridaspur, and a normal investigation was never going to cut it. For her, this just became personal. It wasn't just a case anymore. It was a challenge she had to solve herself.
So, what's her crazy plan? She decides to go to Haridaspur herself, but not as a high-ranking police superintendent. No, she's going in as someone no one would ever look at twice, a homeless beggar. The plan was brilliant in its simplicity. Get inside, watch the village from within, and just wait for the darkness to give up its secrets.
And this is where the suspense really starts to ramp up. Disguised, undercover, Renuka is now inside the village, and she's unknowingly closing in on the monstrous truth that's been hiding there all along. She goes right to Shyam Singh's house and asks for a place to stay. Once she's inside, she sees it with her own eyes. The family's fear is completely real. The doors are bolted, the windows are shut tight. Later that night, when she's convinced nothing could possibly get in or out, she slips out into the silent, empty streets to patrol. As she's moving like a ghost through the darkness, something catches her eye. It's a creepy, run-down, abandoned ruin on the very edge of the village. You know, the kind of place everyone avoids. But Renuka, she hears something. Faint, stumbling sounds coming from inside. She quickly hides and watches as two men stumble out of the ruin, obviously drunk. And her gut, her police instinct just screams that these are the guys. She follows them silently from the shadows as they head toward a nearby house. And then she watches in total shock as one of them scales a wall, jumps into the courtyard, and quietly opens the main gate for his friend. Renuka waits, her revolver ready. About half an hour goes by. Then the two men sneak back out of the house. And that's her moment. She steps out from the shadows, her weapon raised, and her voice just cuts through the dead silence. The game was over. With the criminals caught red-handed, the final, horrifying piece of this impossible puzzle was just about to fall into place. So after Renuka reveals who she really is to the absolutely stunned villagers, the two men are hauled off to the police station. And now, finally, it was time to answer the one question that had terrorized Hardaspor for months. How on earth did they do it? And the answer? It wasn't a ghost. It wasn't black magic. The answer was chillingly simple. It was a chemical spray. Under interrogation, it all came pouring out. One of the men confessed they would use a spray, probably something with chloroform in it, and spray it through cracks in the doors or windows. The entire family would fall into this deep, unnatural sleep. So deep they wouldn't hear a thing, see a thing, or remember a thing, and the criminals could just walk right in and do whatever they wanted, completely undetected. The truth was so much more horrifying than any ghost story they could have imagined. But with that confession, the path to justice was finally clear. And justice came swiftly. The case was fast-tracked. The men were charged with multiple crimes, including rape, trespassing, and poisoning. They were found guilty on all counts, and the court gave them the harshest sentence possible, life in prison. For the village, it was this huge wave of relief, a real sense of closure at last. So the real takeaway here comes from SP Renuka herself. She went back to the village later, not in disguise, but as a hero, and she left them with this incredibly powerful message. Darkness only thrives in silence and fear, but it only takes one small light, one single act of courage to push it all back. So I'll leave you with this thought. How many other secrets are out there, hidden by fear, just waiting for one person brave enough to finally light that flame?